Best horror films are the ones that don't use VFX.
Unlearn is something you always have to do before you kind of get onto something. You always need to unlearn a certain number of things.
Some of the biggest horror successes have been films which are very kind of compact in their shooting. Like Blair Witch Project was looked like one student had filmed that on his 8MP camera.
Hello everyone, welcome to PeepingMoon.com. I'm Rashita Sahani, and today joining me for a super interesting conversation are Emraan and Nikita for their upcoming film Dybbuk. Hi you two, how have you been?
Good, how have you been?
Great. So, I watched the teaser of your film and it's really spine-chilling. I must say that I'm watching something like this after a very long time. I don't remember the last horror Bollywood film that I watched. The recent ones have been horror comedy like Ruhi and Stree. So I didn't get that feel in that. I think your film is, of course, a full-on horror film. Now, you tell me what more can we expect from the film? Because the teaser has, I think, managed to do pretty well.
So it's more than what it promises. Obviously, it's just teasing you in that one bit. But it's like you said, there's not been a horror film that's been presented this way. The way it's shot, the aesthetics, just the feel, the texture, the acting, the subtle, the nuances. I think it's all taking horror into a very, very welcome space. Something has not been in our country for the longest time, because we don't normally make too many horror films here. And there's a very nice, fresh, I would say, like an icing, which is of the Jewish culture. Which is very refreshing, which is very interesting actually for someone who's uninitiated, who don't know about it. I didn't know about it. And it's great to learn about that culture and also about their beliefs of the supernatural and the occult. And I would say it's very realistic. We've tried to use as less of VFX in this film, keep it very, very engaging, immersive. And it's all about the psychological aspect of what horror should be.
Fantastic. Nikita?
Yeah, I totally agree with Emraan. That's also one reason why I was, so kicked about this film when I heard it for the first time. And of course, we've made it we've updated it with the times since the older one is about 4 years ago. So with all that taken into account, I think there is a very genuine attempt to kind of give the audience a pure horror experience and not kind of beat around the bush randomly in the middle. That's something we are trying here, and OTT has given us that, it's given us that liberty to do so. So we're really hoping that audience appreciates that, the true horror fans kind of really like it.
I'm sure they will. And talking about the original, of course, it's a remake. So did you watch the original or inculcate anything from that?
It's a remake, as you rightly said. So when it's a remake, I mean, you're pretty close to how the original is. Of course, there are a few changes that we've made according to the times and to kind of cater to a wider audience, but it's very close to what the original one in Malayalam is.
Okay. Emraan, what about you?
I'd seen the original. I'd seen it sometime before I heard the script. Thankfully, that time period was more than less, because it was almost a year before that I'd seen the original. So I kind of had a vague idea what it is, but not entirely. Like, I'd forgotten a lot of things from the original. But when I heard the script, it was a fresh experience. What Jay was, putting the garnishing on the film, of course, the texture, the tonality, the thread of the story is pretty much the same. Just a lot of things amped up for the Indian horror audience, and small narrative changes, which were a welcome change. So it was a fresh experience when I heard the script. And it's one of the few films where I've actually said yes on that narration. I didn't take time to think about it. Otherwise, generally, I might take a day or two to mull over it. This one was instant.
Okay. I think the concept, as Emraan also mentioned, is so, I think, unique. Even I didn't know about it unless I heard that, okay, it's being remade in India, in Hindi. So I researched about it, and it's pretty, interesting. Now, in India or in Bollywood, there are not many horror films made, like you rightly mentioned before. Why do you think that happens? Do you think that the, audiences do not get what they want from horror films per se? Because instead of getting scared, it goes on some other direction. Like the audience is not getting scared properly. But when I watched your teaser, it was very short. It was just 15 seconds, but I could get that feel. So, do you think your film will change that scenario here?
It's actually the industry's fault because we have not been dishing out good products and not enough to keep the audience engaged. Any other industry they have in this genre, they have done a lot more and have had more as far as quantity goes and also quality. So I think that's something we need to work on. The whole idea of Dybbuk was to give a fresh revamp to this genre. The look, the feel, the acting, the engagement, the immersiveness, the feeling of those chills and scares and that edge of the seat feeling that this film will give you is unlike any other Hindi horror film that you've seen. And that was the entire idea, to just take it on a whole new level and just to kind of kickstart things for the genre in a very fresh way.
Agreed. Got it. And Nikita, we have seen you in always very sweet and nice roles. Here we are seeing you getting scared, also scaring us. I will see that in the film, of course. But how was the entire experience for you? Did you have to learn or unlearn anything for the book?
I think unlearn is something you always have to do before you kind of get onto something. You always need to unlearn a certain number of things. Learn, yes, because these emotions are very new to me. Generally when you're portraying certain emotions, you have experienced them in real life, you've come across, so it's kind of easy to replicate them, feel them when you're acting in front of the camera. Whereas when it comes to this fear and being possessed, all these are very new. I've never experienced that in reality. So I did have to go through a set of workshops to kind of get a hang of how to go about it, which did help me quite a bit. So that was a bit of prep work that I did. But as I said, something very new and very exciting to kind of finally go and get to experiment something like this.
Very brave.
Yeah.
You never experienced fear. I'm
fear
envious.
in the sense
Of ghosts.
Fear probably is the wrong thing to say. It's because you experience something, so you have the fear. I have the fear without experiencing anything. That's a better way to put it.
Okay. I thought you were saying I don't experience fear.
No. I'm very. I get scared very quickly.
Okay. And Emraan, you have done, you have been a part of horror films before. But as an actor, how different was your experience while doing this one than the previous ones?
Not very different from horror films. It was a very good experience. It was a very fulfilling experience. But shooting is shooting. It's generally very technical. You don't know what you're doing till it's up there on screen. So I had put all my faith in Jay as a director. And I think he is, full marks to him with the way he's kind of put things up visually and contextually and through the narrative. It was great working with the team, with everyone. And I think what was great is that we had done a lot less set work. We didn't do too much on film sets per se because it restricts. I don't think it's very immersive. We've gone to real locations and shot it. Like we've done pretty much everything in Mauritius in these spectacular locations, these old heritage homes, which actually give you a very creepy feeling when you go there. And we have shot there in the middle of the night. It really gives you the creeps. So if I knew that if this was going to make me feel this being here personally, imagine what it would happen, what would happen when you put it up on screen. So I was pretty happy with that.
Okay, great. And also what happens is that horror films somehow, whenever it releases, it's always compared to the technicalities of a Hollywood horror film. Now, of course, their budget, their team, everything is very different, much on a much larger scale sometimes. Do you think that comparison is a little unfair also?
No, I don't think horror is ever about the budget. I think horror, because it's intimately shot, it's not a tentpole film of horror. Horror is the more you play on the psychological aspect. It comes from a keen sense of the director knowing the psychology of the audience. by that knowing his own psychology of what fear is. If he is astute in that, then you can play up those emotions through the scenes. Some of the biggest horror successes have been films which are very kind of compact in their shooting. Like Blair Witch Project was, it looked like one student had filmed that on his 8mm camera, and it went on to be one of the most successful Hollywood horror films, purely on marketing also. So it also is innovation. I think we lack innovation here. They innovate more abroad. They innovate more internationally. So I think we lack that and that vision that needs to
they
come.
also dare to take more risks than what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a little skeptical about experimenting and taking those big risks when it comes to content, especially in the horror genre.
Also, I think the VFX plays a big part, but as you mentioned, here VFX is not as much.
Yeah, but some of the best horror films are the ones that don't use VFX.
VFX,
like
correct.
The Exorcist, Omen, none of these films used VFX. It was
Yeah.
pure the story. It was about the narrative and about how they use psychology to scare you.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I was saying, is that earlier we saw Bollywood films almost ruining it because of the VFX, not getting in the correct emotion storyline and not scaring us enough. So yeah, expecting a lot from this one now.
Yeah.
Okay. And about the release on the web now, with cinemas reopening and getting back to normalcy, do you think web will, with the massive viewership that it has, web will still, be up and running like before?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that's here to stay, because we have got so used to the pattern of viewing things at home. I don't know about the future of theatrical. Yeah, theatrical will inch back to normalcy as COVID also will become a thing of the past in the next couple of years. Theatrical business will get back to normal. But it all depends on what will be the films, the bifurcation of what will be the kind of films that will work OTT and theatrical. Of course, you can consume pretty much everything that is from going from theatrical and OTT. But what will be the film that will work in the theater is the question. Will the small, medium budget films still work in the theater? Would people want to pay that kind of money and go to the theater to watch it? Or they would choose to be with their family, pay their monthly subscription of 600 or 800, 900 bucks and sit at home and watch that small, medium budget film because it's story based. So no one really has those answers.
Okay. Nikita, what do you think about that?
No, I just think people have adapted very well in the past 2 years since the pandemic began to this entire OTT culture. We all of us have, we've just become very comfortable. A lot of people have kind of invested in getting, better sound system, better visual systems at their place because they want to kind of enjoy that experience.
Yeah.
So it's definitely here to stay because we found a convenient option. But at the same time, I do think that cinemas will eventually get their charm back. So it's just a thing. I feel that there'll be kind of a balance where you will also want to go to cinemas and watch films, but you'll also be very happy watching films in the comfort of your home.
Yeah, I think by now we all have a mini projector at home. We plug it in and make our own home theater.
Yes,
So,
Yeah.
That's happening. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much, Emraan. Thank you, Nikita, for joining in. All the very best for your film.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.